Hello, everybody. Hello. Good evening, all. I had some extra time this New Year's Day, so I thought I would take some questions. Thought I would take some questions this afternoon. Happy New Year's, everybody. I hope that your 2020 is going great so far and that the rest of your year is great. Let me make sure I'm all set up here. But I am taking questions. Have a little bit of time here. Let's see. There we go. How is everybody tonight? Hope everybody has had a wonderful New Year's again. Still celebrating. But I thought I would take some questions today, try to help everybody out. Where can I get a Nexus letter for sleep apnea? Good question. We have a lot of resources in the announcements group of the section, in the announcements section of the group for Nexus letters. You can contact any of those providers and see what kind of Nexus letter they provide, how much they charge, and ask for a sample of their work. Make sure you ask for a sample of their work before you put out any money. That would be my advice, but I've collected a number of Nexus letter resources and put them in the announcement section of this group under the title of Master List. Let's see. Any idea on getting carpal tunnel syndrome service connected? I was in the medical field for 20 years and just diagnosed in the past 30 days with moderate. It's on my right, slight on my left. I would write a statement about your profession for 20 years, how that affected your wrist carpal tunnel, and if you can have a doctor say that this didn't just develop, this developed over time, and his profession had some impact on the condition, that would greatly help your case. The good thing about doctors is that they can not only look at the present, but they can look at a condition and say, this has been going on for at least 5 years. This has been going on for at least 10 years. And so that's the type of letter that you need a doctor to write in order to get that connected. Happy New Year, guys. Happy New Year. So glad to be able to be here and be able to help you. So glad to see 2020 is a blessing. And thank you all for all the advice and help that you give in the group and for keeping it an orderly community. How long does VA financial audit take? I went from 40 to 70%. I'm retired. Started new pay January 1st. No back pay yet. I've seen it take anywhere from 30 days to 90 days. When that audit triggers, is totally up to the VA and DFAS. And so there's no specific time frame. If it's been more than 30, 45 days, I would give the VA a call. It's one of the few situations I recommend calling the VA instead of writing. But call DFAS and see what the holdup is and ask them to do an audit on your account and to because you are due back pay. You guys are so welcome. Have you seen any PTSD MST cases? I heard the VA streamline the process. Yes, I see them all the time. And proving PTSD MST is a matter of showing the markers in your record, the markers in service. I don't know about a streamlined process, but I know that they have coordinators at each regional office that an MST case must go through, and it goes through a checklist to see if your case meets the standard, so to speak, for MST cases, see if there are any markers, to see if you gained weight, to see if you had any breakdowns, if you reported it in service, that type of thing. That's what I mean when I say marker. The VA wants to see that there was something happened after the PTSD MST that they can point to say that, oh, that this did happen if it wasn't reported. I hope that answers your question. Do you have to be rated 100% before filing for Social Security? No, you don't. You can file for Social Security at 0%. You can file for Social Security at any time without the VA process, or you can file after you get a VA rating, and the Social Security will request your VA records. But no, it is not necessary to be rated 100% to file for Social Security. Isn't it true that with a 1151 claim, which is a tort claim, that the VA is not supposed to outsource a medical opinion? I believe that is true. There are certain claims that the VA is not supposed to use a contractor for. Let me research that after this video and get back to you on that question. But there are certain claims that the VA is not supposed to use a contractor for, according to the M211 Adjudication Procedures Manual, VA Adjudication Procedures Manual. You can look that up too on nova.ebenefits.va.gov, I believe. But there are certain claims that the VA is not supposed to outsource the medical opinion. A claim against the VA for malpractice, negligence, that type of thing that caused disability, I believe, is one of those claims. I need help for real. Well, let us help you ask your questions, see how in the group, see how far that you can get with our help, our free help, and go from there. I've been recently diagnosed by the VA sleep clinic as having moderate severe sleep apnea and given a CPAP. I'm currently 70% PTSD. Should I add this as a secondary to PTSD or a separate claim? Should I get a Nexus either way? Okay, so you met criteria number 1, which is having a diagnosis. If you did not have any sleep problems, or you did not have any record of sleep problems in service where it's recorded, where you went to the doctor for it, went to sick call for it, and there's a medical record stating that you had sleep issues in service, then I would go the secondary route, secondary to PTSD claim. And yes, you are going to need a Nexus letter. Either you're going to claim it secondary and the VA is going to send you out for a medical opinion to one of their doctors, or you can get your own medical opinion and use that to sway the VA doctor and that type of thing, the VA medical opinion. The VA is probably going to send you for an exam either way if you claim it secondary. And so, but a Nexus letter would help you in that it should push your claim to the 50-50 benefit of the doubt rule, where 50-50 in the case the evidence is equal, in a claim, the tie should go to a veteran. That's what the law says, and that's what should be happening with VA claims. Can you call me? That's sort of hard to do with so many veterans here, and having clients of my own, but I would highly recommend that you ask your question in the group and see there's some great advisors and other great admins who are claim agents too that can help answer your questions, and put it out to the group for answers. Do you think it's hard to get IU at 70%? You have just as equal chance as anybody else. It all depends on your disabilities. So if your disabilities put you at an unemployable level, you can get that letter from your employer. You can write a statement yourself. And when they send you to VA for examination, doctors can say that they can't do any type of work. Then yes, you should be able to get unemployable. But then look at any secondary claims that you may have and that type of thing. As you're in pursuit of your IU, it might just be that you can get to 100% the permanent and total way, and it's an option you haven't explored. Secondary claims can do a lot to increase your percentage. What can be done if you are diagnosed with schizophrenia by the VA, but never said anything about it during service because of the embarrassment? You can file a claim for it. What the law says is that anything diagnosed after service that is clearly connected to service will be service connected. And so if you had any type of episodes during your service, any type of acting out, any type of disciplinary issues, any type of that, I would write a statement and say, this started in service. I had issues during service. I was embarrassed to say anything about it or to seek help. And I have recently been diagnosed with it. And see where you can get from there. That's my advice on that. I was told that the VA has a cap on back pay owed to veterans. Is that true? That's not true. What is true is that they have a budget set out by Congress each year, that they have to stay with them before they have to go back to Congress and ask for more money. What exactly that money is, that allotment or line item is for back pay, I don't know. But they have a budget just like every other government agency, and they have to stay within that budget. But that does not mean they have a cap on back pay. If you are owed back pay by the VA, you are going to be paid back pay by the VA. It's just a matter of when it's paid. My case was remanded for a CMP exam, which I completed in September. It did state least likely 50% or better that it was caused on my military service. In addition, my lawyer had a psychiatrist wrote a 14-page Nexus letter that was submitted in December. Does my case have to wait to go back to the board? No, your case does not have to go back to the board. It just has to be rated. And I can tell you from my experience with my clients, remands take a long time. I mean, it can take months in order for it to get rated. Why it takes so long, I don't know. They should expedite the process, because you basically, in a lot of cases, you've been granted by the VA and you just need to be rated, and that's what that CMP exam for. In your case, the board sent it back out for a medical opinion, and it came back, it was positive, and now you're just sitting there waiting to be rated. So it's just a matter of time with remands. There's very little you can do to speed that up, but it does not have to go back to the board. Happy New Year, Carmella. Happy New Year. Yay. What do the people who served in the military in the late 80s, early 90s, when things like anxiety, PTSD, panic attacks were brushed under the carpet, and they just hand out benzophiles without putting in medical records stating it would affect military career and reenlistment changes? So there's no actual diagnosis in military records. I would write a statement to that effect. I know that statements get old, they get tired, and a lot of people don't think they have a lot of usefulness, but I think that they help connect the dots for the person interpreting your claim. And so you should write out a statement, get any other family statements, friend statements, buddy statements that you can get, clergy statements about your change in behavior, about how you were and how you become, especially if you were in combat. It's a little easier to prove because the law says the VA is supposed to take you at your word once you were in combat. But you can also try to claim it as secondary to some other condition. A lot of physical conditions cause anxiety. For example, if your back hurts and you have to go to your job every day, it can cause you anxiety knowing that you can't do the work that others can do or as fast as they can do it, and you have performance evaluations or whatever coming up. I mean, there's all types of ways you can prove mental health conditions secondary to primary conditions. That's just one example, and it probably wasn't a very good example. But a lot of people don't know when they're going to get a bad migraine. And, it happens all the time, anytime, and it can cause them severe loss of enjoyment of life. And in that case, you need to claim that secondary and get it rated. I mean, there's all types of things you can get rated secondary. Can you get more than 50% with migraines? That's an interesting question. The most truthful answer is no. You can't get more than 50%. There are situations, and these are rare situations, where you can get an extra scheduler rating, which is a rating that is not based on the schedule for rating disabilities, which is in the law, if your condition is so severe that it doesn't meet the criteria that is in the schedule for rating disabilities. That's really hard to do. So in most cases, 50% is the most you can get for migraines. I have a family member who received the decision, and she has 1 year to file an appeal. However, when her original claim was submitted, she didn't claim. I don't see the rest of that question. Please re-ask that question. Are you familiar with somatic symptoms syndrome? I'm familiar with somatic symptom disorder, and that is basically chronic pain. You can get it rated secondary to one of your conditions if it causes chronic pain, but chronic pain causes decline in your quality of life, and that is causes the condition somatic, a decline in the quality of life causes somatic, I keep wanting to say what you wrote, somatic symptom disorder. I believe it's a technical term for it. But yes, it's a syndrome. Yes, it's a disorder. Yes, it's rateable chronic pain. It can be primary if it's in your records, or it can be secondary. A lot of times what you'll see in VA records, if you're looking for this type of syndrome, is psychological response due to pain, or psychological issues, some type of psychological response due to pain. And that would be the same thing as somatic symptom disorder. I'm unsure how to word a claim that led to a hysterectomy. I have the essence done. I had the e-shore done while in the field has, while in the FDA has recalled, and now I had a hysterectomy done. Any insight? I had the e-shore done well in that. I'm not sure I understand your question. Can you re-ask that with a little more clarity, please? I'm sorry. Or if so, I'll follow up after the video. Is there not due process with the VA? My comp was stopped March 2019. No letter, call, email, nothing. They claim it's with general counsel. What can be done? I reached out to Senate Legal and is trying to help, and it's been almost a year and my life has turned upside down. Thank you. Happy New Year. This is awesome what you're doing. There is due process with the VA, and they should have sent you some letter. There is a letter somewhere with your name on it. I don't know what address it went to, but if they made a decision, there's a letter. If they made any type of decision, unless they believe that it's due to fraud or something like that, they cannot and would not sever your disability without a letter. If you did not get that letter, and you can prove that you did not get that letter, or something, they sent it to the wrong address or something like that, that the VA has what they call, when it comes to mailing, the presumption of regularity. That means it's assumed that if something was mailed from the VA, that it got to you. So what you're going to have to do is rebut that presumption. This did not get to me. I did not get it. I've seen nothing. I've contacted everybody and asked them to resend that letter and make sure they have your correct contact information on file. You can do that. Or you can get a representative with electronic access. And they could see what was happening with your claim in about 2 weeks after you signed with them, because they can access the VA electronic system and see exactly what's going on. I don't know why your claim will be with general counsel unless you had some type of fee dispute or something like that, but you need to get on top of it, or it sounds like you have been, by reaching out to the Senate and legal aid, and win that compensation back. I'm not sure why they severed your disability, but there has to be due process in that process. Had a fire extinguisher go off in my face, documented about cough and tightness in my chest, been on albuterol since 93, have been denied, and I gave up, but my pulmonologist believes my respiratory issues are due to service. Can I refile? Yes, you can refile. You need to file a supplemental claim on form 29, 9, I believe it's 955, 1 second. 20995. And put have your pulmonologist write a letter that she believes your respiratory issues are more likely than not due to your service, that fire extinguisher going off in your face. Write a statement yourself about it and refile, and that should be enough to get you service connected. Can the VA do a reevaluation for PTSD if they are over the age of 55? They're not supposed to. If you're over the age of 55, you're not supposed to be called for reevaluation. But if you reopen the claim or put in for an increase or something like that, you can be called in for a reevaluation. If the VA has mistakenly called you for a reevaluation and you're over 55, I would simply write a statement and point that out to them and get it to them ASAP. Or either find a representative that can email somebody, get in your claim, see what's going on, and email the person and say, hey, this is an error. They're not supposed to be called for reevaluation. I had a supplemental for IU due to PTSD. The supplemental was closed and PTSD shows open for increase. What does that mean? Anytime you put in a claim for IU, it is taken as a claim for increase on your conditions. So that is probably why a claim for increase was open on the PTSD, and you're going to be reevaluated on that. Is erectile dysfunction a diagnosis or is a prescription from your VA doctor justifies a diagnosis? It's a diagnosis, and if you have prescription from your VA doctor for erectile dysfunction, then you have a diagnosis of erectile dysfunction. It's in your records. What you need to do is review your records and see what diagnosis the VA doctor gave you, because they wouldn't write a prescription without giving a diagnosis. Wasn't that major difference between filing for VA disability and filing disability through civilian avenue? Also, what would happen if you get approved through civilian route before being rated by the VA? So basically what you're talking about is applying for Social Security disability, and there are some major differences in the system, very, very big differences. VA disability law is a non-adversarial process. It's supposed to be a non-adversarial process. That's what the law states. It also has a lot of language that is written that is beneficial to the veteran because of their service. And so that's what makes VA disability law different from the civilian route, where it's a lot more difficult to get disability, and their examinations are different. Their process for rating claims are different and looking at claims. What would happen if you get approved through the civilian route before being rated by the VA? That means that the Social Security is just going to request your VA records and use them to process your claim. I need to find a doctor that would do a DBQ and Nexus letter for PTSD. I'm in Columbus, Georgia. There's a master list of doctors and providers that will do claims, do Nexus letter and DBQs, Nexus letters and DBQs in the announcement section of the group. Please look at that list. You might be able to find a lot of psychiatrists do this regularly, so they will do it. Private psychologists will do it anyway. And so make sure you ask your VA doctor, ask a private psychiatrist in your area. They might not know the terminology Nexus letter and DBQ, but if you use independent medical opinion or independent medical evaluation and let them know sort of the language they need to use, that might be, you might be talking more their language in terms of what you need to get done. I'm 90% and putting a claim for my back for lumbar. So my claim was approved for only 20%, but the C&P doctor even suggested 50%. The pain is severe. Should I appeal this 20%? You can't appeal it. What matters is what the C&P doctor wrote, not what he said. A lot of them, I don't know why they do it, but sometimes they will say misleading things. Sometimes it's to elicit a response and to see what you say back. Or it could have just been rated too low. Have you seen the C&P exam results? If not, I would encourage you to get them, to read them, and make sure your appeal is based on concrete evidence that it should have been rated higher. Point out to the VA how you meet the higher disability rating for your back. Once a decision is received and a veteran has the 1-year window to appeal if needed, can the veteran file a claim for new conditions without messing up the appeal? Once a decision has been made on a claim, the veteran can file a new claim for new conditions without messing up the appeal period. You do not have to wait until the appeal period is expired to file new claims. I have had Social Security disability since 2004, and I'm currently 60% for the same conditions through VA. How hard would it be for me to put in a claim IU through the VA? It just depends on what your conditions are. Do you have one condition that's rated at least 40%? I would need to know your exact ratings to give you more guidance on that. But it's just about how your disabilities affect your quality of living and your standard of life. Having Social Security disability should help your case. The VA should request your Social Security disability records if you apply for IU. But note that when you put in a claim for IU, it's considered by the VA as a claim for increase, and they're going to relook at all your disabilities. I was recently diagnosed with prostate cancer, have been referred out to a civilian doctor. I am a post 9/11 Marine. Do I rate temp 100% while going through treatment? Thank you. If you are service connected for prostate cancer, then yes, you can get temporary 100% for it while going through treatment. If not, then you likely will not be able to, but I would encourage you to try to get that prostate cancer service connected. Rated at 80% for PTSD. Have high blood pressure. Was issued equipment to monitor and put on meds. On claim, I put as one of my issues, given a 0% rating for what should I do? First of all, there's no 80% rating for PTSD, so there has to be something else mixed up in there. There's only 0, 10, 30, 50, 70, and 100 for mental health conditions. Secondly, 0% for hypertension, high blood pressure is pretty much a normal rating. To get a rating higher than 0% for hypertension, you have to have 3 high readings back to back in front of the doctor on the day of the exam, which is pretty difficult to do because most hypertension is controlled by meds. So 0% for hypertension is pretty normal and usually what I see. There are some that are rated higher, but they have severe high blood pressure. How often have you seen sleep apnea that was secondary to PTSD get denied and then approved? Went to Nexus letter, was sent as a supporting document. If you can get a Nexus for the sleep apnea secondary to PTSD, then you shouldn't have a terribly difficult time. I say this with some caution, getting it service connected. A Nexus letter is what you need when it comes to sleep apnea and PTSD. It's pretty hard to get the VA medical opinion to say that it's service connected. I've seen it in some cases, but usually you're going to have an outside Nexus letter, and that should help you. It should push the benefit of doubt rule into play, where in the case of equal evidence, that would be a negative opinion and a positive opinion, an opinion against your claim and an opinion for your claim. The VA says that VA law says that the tie goes to the veteran. And so that's what a Nexus letter should help you do. If they still deny it, I would go for the appeal. Do not be afraid. And this is one of the points I wanted to make in an earlier video. Do not be afraid to take an appeal to the board. I know it takes time, but sometimes board opinions are more well-reasoned, more well thought out than a VA adjudicator. You're dealing with lawyers and judges where you're just dealing with regular staff people who have some training in VA law at the agency level. Do not be afraid to take your appeal to the board. It takes more time, yes, and sometimes you can get the decision needed on harder claims than having it at the agency level. I would also not be afraid to take your case to court. At that point, you're probably going to need a lawyer. That's like 95% need for a lawyer at the point that you're headed for the Court of Veteran Appeals. But I would not be afraid to pursue your case at the highest levels if you have a credible claim. I claim migraines but got 30% tension headaches. How is that? The VA rates headaches and migraines the same, and so it's pretty much, I know it's two different conditions medically and two different diagnoses, but what the CMP examiner probably said was that you had tension headaches instead of migraines, and that's why you got the headaches rating. I would not be too concerned about that because the headaches and migraine terminology is pretty much interchangeable. It's both on the same DBQ. If they had used migraines, the word migraines instead of headaches, you wouldn't have got any higher rating than the 30%. The 30% is what the CMP examiner rated you at. And if you feel like you deserve more than that, the next highest level is 50%. And you can try to put in a claim for increase. What happens if you file a claim, it gets denied, and you don't appeal within the 1-year time period? Can you reclaim the condition? Yes. What it used under the old law before February 2019, it was called reopening the claim. Now it's called a supplemental claim, and you need to fill out a supplemental claim form and attach new and relevant evidence in order to get that condition reopened and relooked at. The stipulation is that if you're filing a condition that has been denied before, you need new and relevant evidence. New evidence is evidence they have seen before. Relevant evidence is, at this point, whatever the VA interprets as relevant evidence, because the law is so new that it hasn't been well defined yet, the word relevant. And so it needs to be something that tends to prove a matter at issue in your claim. For instance, if the issue was Nexus, there was no Nexus, and you submit the claim with the Nexus statement, that would tend to prove an issue that was at issue with your claim before. If the issue was you didn't have a diagnosis and you submit VA medical records and treatment records that show you now have a diagnosis, that would prove something that was at issue with the previous denial. How do I file secondary claims for other symptoms associated with fibro? You simply need to fill out a application, a compensation application, and write secondary to fibromyalgia. If it's headaches secondary to fibromyalgia, then that's what you need to put on the application. If you're doing it online, I'm on eBenefits or va.gov, it asks you, there are questions that ask, well, va.gov is a little different, but on eBenefits, it asks, are you requesting an increase? Or are you adding a secondary claim? You need to click add a secondary claim and then add the things that you feel are secondary to it. On va.gov, I believe it asked the question explicitly, do you feel, oh, well, not do you feel, but is the condition primary or is it a result of another condition? And if it's a result of another condition, then it populates questions that ask for the secondary conditions. So however you're doing it, you need to make sure that it's clear that you are claiming the condition secondary and not primary. Because if they process it as a primary condition, you're probably going to get denied if you intended for it to be secondary. Got out of the military in '93. Had a knee injury. Medic didn't indicate which knee. Had corrective eye surgery for a lazy eye because of NBC mask. It was noted as cosmetic. How do I fix this? With the knee injury, With the knee injury, you need to submit a statement that says which knee it was that was injured. There should be some indication somewhere of which knee was injured in that medical record. If that mask was the cause for a lazy eye, then that's not cosmetic, and that's a misdiagnosis or misread in the medical records. And what you need to get is a letter from a doctor that says that that was not a cosmetic surgery, and it was caused by the wearing of the mask in the service. I hope that answers that question. How do I get a PTSD appointment? If you're talking about through your VA treatment provider, you call the VA medical center and tell them you need to be seen for your PTSD. If you're talking about a CMP exam, you have to file a claim for it in order to get a PTSD appointment. Would my previous question cause my PTSD to be completely reevaluated? Adding sleep apnea as secondary to PTSD. That's an interesting question because it sort of depends on whether your PTSD is considered static or not, which means it's rated as not likely to improve by the VA. If it has that status, which you can see on your rating code sheet in your claims folder, if you don't know what that is, get a representative to look at your case for you. It could be a VSO or anybody that's accredited, and tell you whether your condition is static or not, or if it's scheduled for a future exam. If it's scheduled for a future exam and you put in a claim for something secondary to it, then they're probably going to go ahead and give you that future exam. So it's just a matter of how it's rated. Voc rehab appeal procedure usually takes writing a letter to your counselor appealing whatever decision they made. I will get back to you with more information on this question. What does this mean? Does it mean calls while in the service? Veteran has a diagnosis of multiple joint strain that is at least likely as not 50% or greater probability incurred and are caused by bilateral hand issues and STRs during service as continuation of said condition. Yes, that usually means it's service connected and calls while in service. Well, caused by the service connected condition, not while in service. My claim was denied 3 times. I filed a higher level review claim and they found an error. Does that mean it's service connected? The claim was arthritis, knees, and shoulders. That does not mean it's service connected. That does mean that they probably found a duty to assist error, which was at some level somebody made an error in the processing of your claim, and they're going to go back and correct that claim, correct that error, which usually means they're going to send you for an exam. And then that exam will determine if it's service connected or not. How long does it take to get CHAMP VA insurance for my spouse? I've seen these days CHAMP VA applications take anywhere from 60 to 90 days. CHAMP VA is a beast all by itself. You know, calling that number, hardly anybody picks up on the customer call center line. I really think something needs to be done about the CHAMP VA program in general. But I have CHAMP VA insurance myself, so I know exactly what I'm talking about. But it can take a while. There are people you can contact if you're having trouble with CHAMP VA or it's taking a while to get service connected. There's also a Facebook group dedicated specifically to CHAMP VA that I would encourage you to join if you're having issues with CHAMP VA. Have you seen a lot of GERD claims? Yes. How can you make sleep apnea secondary to depression? My doctor and the sleep clinic doctor said that the sleep apnea affects my depression. I'm SC for depression, and I have sleep apnea diagnosis. However, I was not for sleep apnea. Any suggestions? Yes. Get a Nexus letter. Get a Nexus letter that says, right now you're saying it backwards, that your depression affects your sleep apnea. Or that your sleep apnea, you're saying your sleep apnea affects your depression, but does your depression affect your sleep apnea? That's the question that you need to pose to a doctor and get them to write a letter confirming such a connection. I submitted a claim for vision and it was denied over a year ago. This time I filed it as secondary to headaches. I got a notice stating I need to do a supplemental claim. I don't understand that since I'm doing a secondary this time around, which is what I have waited to do the first time around. Is this correct? Yes, that's correct. The VA is requiring all claims that were denied previously to be filed on a supplemental claim form. That includes if you're filing it as secondary. Any claim you're filing as secondary and that claim has been denied before, it needs to go on a supplemental claim form. If you don't put it on a supplemental claim form, you're going to get a letter telling you to do so. And if you don't respond to that letter, then your claim dies. And so you need to respond to that letter by filing a supplemental claim form with the headaches, secondary division. How does it work if one of your issues gets rated permanent? How does it affect your rating? It doesn't affect your rating. It probably means it was just rated static. If only one of your issues gets rated permanent, if they all get rated permanent, then that means you won't have any future exams. And if you're at the 100% level, then you would be permanent in total. I have had shoulder surgery for a service-connected disability and since been diagnosed with chronic pain syndrome and major depressive disorder. Filed for major depressive disorder with a DBQ, failed by a civilian doctor. It was denied and filed a supplemental claim within 6 months of psychology visits through the VA. What are chances it will be granted as SC? Did you specifically file the chronic pain syndrome as secondary to shoulder surgery? If not, the VA would have interpreted as direct service connection, and they're going to say there's nothing in your service medical records that says you have this condition. It needs to be filed as specifically secondary. Even if the doctor filled out a DBQ, it needs to be specifically filed as secondary to the primary disability. You can't just claim it outright and expect it to be service connected if it's secondary to the disability. I'm 10% for my left knee after having multiple surgeries on my knee due to ACL tear revision. The ACL meniscus tore again, and they said that knee replacement isn't right for me at the time because they can't get good outcome. My right knee is suffering as well. I filed for an increase. My VA rep said to get a Nexus letter from my right knee as secondary. My orthopedic doctor said he doesn't want to do that. How important is the Nexus letter? I feel we're asking some strange doctors to do that. It's moderately important. If you file your right knee secondary to your left knee, you're going to get an exam for it. And then it's up to the VA doctor to render a medical opinion that says whether it's service connected or not. The question for you is if you want to rely on the VA doctor to write that medical opinion and trust that you have enough evidence to prove that it's secondary. You can take your chances. But I've seen some medical opinions come out where the VA doctor service connected and others where it comes out where they don't. It just depends on how strong your evidence is. I'm helping a family member out who has service-connected heart disease under Vietnam Agent Orange. He has third heart attack with 4 stents this past January. If he now has 100% disability due to defibrillator replaced this last September, effective November 2019, can he still file for any increase or back pay for time around January time period? The question is, when was he rated 100%? There's a law that says that if you can prove that your disability increased within a year of your claim, then the effective date should be within a year of that claim. And so I would definitely appeal that effective date, it sounds like. How hard is it to get plantar fasciitis and knee condition? I'm assuming this goes with the previous comment. I can't really tell that if you had a positive CMP and a strong Nexus letter. If you have positive CMP and a strong Nexus letter, then it should be service connected. There's no reason why it should not be. Had remand from 2006. VA granted 30% COPD. VA sent me to VES for CMP via judge notes to see if secondary back in September. Is it just hurry up and wait, or what is the probability for secondary service connection? It's just hurry up and wait. What you can do is get a representative, and they could probably see those exam results and tell you what they were. But other than that, it's just hurry up and wait for a remand decision. Good evening. Is it possible to have my records reviewed prior to retiring to see where I stand now? I'm still active duty E9, but plan to retire in 3 years. Yes, I would encourage you to visit a VSO and just have a conversation about where you are, what's wrong with you, what you need to get seen for, and that type of thing. I submitted new information and they still denied it. Why? That would depend on the reason they gave you in the decision letter. That should tell you exactly why your claim was denied, and that's exactly the reason you need to fulfill in order to get your claim service connected.
Carmella.
Shh.
Carmella, it has Roblox. I'm gonna play.
Sorry, my nephew has just entered the building.
Yeah.
Do you see a lot of lupus claims, and what has been your experience with those? I see a moderate amount. It just depends on the evidence. It all depends on the evidence, especially your claim could be especially strong if you got a Nexus letter, but as with any condition, it depends on the evidence. Benefit of the doubt goes to the veteran. Yes, in every case, the benefit of the doubt is supposed to go to the veteran. Is it true that the VA won't review your awarded claim after you turn 55 years old? That is supposed to be the standard. But sometimes they do, and they do it in error and that type of thing. I would encourage getting a representative to try to figure that out. What is needed to file an MST compensation claim? You just need to write out a statement with your stressor and tell the VA exactly what happened, when it happened, and if you reported it, if you didn't report it, were there any markers during service, anything that happened afterwards. Did you lose weight? Did you have lower performance evaluations? Did you act out? Do you have disciplinary issues? Did you, there's all types of markers that there could have been. What you need to do is, pretty much file a claim and tell the VA all about the situation. How would I be able to get prostate cancer service connected? I got out in 2016, was stationed in Okinawa and stateside. However, I read small articles about Agent Orange being present in Okinawa. It will be difficult to get it service connected if it's not in your treatment records, but not impossible. What you're going to need is a Nexus letter. A Nexus letter that says your prostate cancer was caused by something in your service. That's pretty much all that's to it. You're going to need a Nexus letter. How much weight does a buddy letter carry along with the Nexus in our DBQ when filing claims? It carries a lot of weight as it can corroborate your story if it's filed along with a Nexus letter and a DBQ. I claimed PTSD but was told no. I did take their advice and seemed to help, and since I had diagnosed with depression with current prescription and active treatment session, I just applied for another reclaim. Do you think I stand a good chance of getting approved for my increase of percentage? Okay, so are you already rated for depression? If you've been getting active treatment and your situation has worsened, then you probably stand a good chance of getting increased, but it all depends on the examiner, really. Received a letter several years ago. It stated your kidney condition is granted for 4 years back at 60%. I had a DAV rep and immediately took the letter to him and asked, what do I do now? He said, you don't do anything, they're going to send you a check, but I never received it. I have the letter. I went to one of the VA community forums and inquired about it. The rep said, we're not going to pay you that. It frustrated me and I momentarily gave up. I am a combat Purple Heart recipient. You need to do some more digging into this. I would encourage you to get another rep or a lawyer immediately and look into it. If they said your condition is granted, and with 4 years of back pain, you haven't received anything yet, then you need to get on it ASAP. Call the VA, write the VA, get a representative, find out what's going on with that claim. How do I claim a knee as secondary to plantar fasciitis? You do just that. You claim it secondary to plantar fasciitis. If you are using a paper application, you write knee pain, knee condition, knee something, second, or whatever your diagnosis is, secondary to plantar fasciitis. If you're going online on eBenefits, it's going to give you the option to add a secondary to your plantar fasciitis, and then you write in what the condition is. When I retired in 2018, QTC did a CMP for hypertension. I had 3 high readings that day and LOB diagnosis for high blood. They still denied me. It is now controlled, but still gets high at times with medicine. I also had 2 strokes due to high blood pressure in 2019. You need to get those CMP exam results, see exactly what QTC said. Try to combat that with a Nexus letter. But definitely don't give up on your claim. If you had a line of duty determination for high blood pressure, that should be service connected. What was the exact reason the VA gave you for denying your claim? That's the reason you need to come back. Hello, ma'am. I have a Nexus letter and a DBQ for sleep apnea, and doctor stated that it was service connected. My VSO filed it as secondary to insomnia, which is service connected. Any chance that it will be accepted? It should be accepted. it should be accepted. You probably have a good chance, a likely chance of getting service connected with a DBQ and Nexus letter for sleep apnea secondary to insomnia. You have strong evidence. Do I have to use VA doctors or can I use private in regards to maintaining rate and will reevaluate later? Reevaluate it later. If you are getting reevaluation, then you have to go to the doctors the VA tells you to go to. The VA scheduled me for PTSD treatment with an outside doctor. The doctor was a no-show. What should I do? You should request a different provider or make another appointment. There's some reason that doctor was a no-show. Either they didn't get notice of the appointment or something else went wrong. But you should definitely request another provider or either another appointment. There's something else that you need to do. Was diagnosed with diabetes after being diagnosed with sleep apnea and getting a rating of 60%. Can I file for diabetes as a secondary condition? Yes, you can. What are the documents needed to file an MST claim? You need to file give me 1 second here. Okay, to look up the name of that form real quick. You need to file of course, the application for compensation, 21526. But there's also a statement that you need to fill out, a stressor statement. And I'm sorry I don't have the name of that form right now, but I can get back to you in the comments with the name of that form. Well, there's a lot of questions left. I don't know how much time I have left, but we'll try to get through them. So with the positive CMP and strong Nexus letter, the benefit of the doubt is awarded to the veteran. In addition, the remand can actually take months, but does not have to be returned to the board. That's correct. Is there a benefit to using VA versus TRICARE for pregnancy and delivery when you have to go to the military base? I wouldn't say there is, but it just depends on your choice of doctors and who you prefer. How do you get a Nexus letter? You have to ask a doctor for one. Trying to move swiftly here. I have a number of questions left and not that much time. What if you had sleep complaints in your service records and had a sleep study while in but was diagnosed, however, was diagnosed several years later with mild sleep apnea? Can you file for service connection? You can definitely file for service connection if you had sleep complaints in your service records. Even if it was diagnosed years later, you can file for service connection. My claim was denied because it was determined that the secondary diagnosis was not caused by my service-connected disability. However, my claim was that the second disability is exacerbated by my service-connected disability. Can I appeal? Yes. I would ask for a higher level review and argue aggravation, that it was aggravated and the doctors didn't CMP examiner didn't properly consider aggravation in considering your claim. When you say get a letter from your doctor, does that mean your VA doctor or a private doctor? Either one. Will the reviewer go ahead and decide on conditions they already have enough evidence and continue to work on the claim? Usually they decide altogether, unless it's been a long period of time. For instance, I just had a situation with a client where a claim was pending for 344 days. I wrote the VA and said, please make a decision on the conditions that you already have a CMP exam for and defer the condition that we requested a hearing for. Because it had been 344 days, the VA complied. And so it's just a matter of how long it's been and that type of thing. But usually, in most cases, they're going to decide everything all together. Sometimes they defer claims when they need more evidence on the matter or they need further development on your situation, but they will write you and tell you that they deferred part of your case. I filed for temporary 100% while in VA hospital and was denied, but I'm rated for mental disorders 50%, not service connected. Do they owe? I don't understand that question. How do I get a copy of my military medical record? There's a couple ways to get them, but the simplest way, well, the most known way is to fill out an SF 180. You can Google that form. It's a form to get your military medical records. You can, now they have a process where you can file a form for them online to get them at the National Personnel Records Center. You can also get a representative and have your representative get your military medical records. If you filed a claim before, they can see your service treatment records. They can print them out for you. You could also go into places like TriCareOnline.com and searching for the dates of your service and seeing if your medical records are there. I have severe sleep apnea. When I retired in 1997, they were not tested for it. Mine was discovered later and my claim was denied. Also, the VA started me on blood pressure meds, yet denied my high blood sugar claim. Why? Just because you're getting VA treatment for a condition does not mean it's service connected. In order to be service connected, there has to be a medical opinion linking your condition to your service or some condition that you're service connected for. And so what you need is a Nexus letter. ETS from the Marines. I made a claim rated at 0% for niggas. I joined the Army. I'm 100% BAT. Am I able to get back paid for the increase in rating? You will likely only get back paid from the date of your claim, from what you are telling me. I would have to review your whole file to give you better guidance on that, but you will, in most cases, you are only back paid from the date of your claim. What if you have sleep complaints? Took a sleep study. Yes, you can apply for service connection. Will the VA cut off my benefits if I choose to seek holistic care instead of psychoactive medications? No, they should not cut off your benefits for that reason. I believe at this point the VA is even employing life coaches for certain conditions instead of having veterans get on medication. So that's a route the VA is taking in some cases, and I believe it might be on a trial basis, but on some cases the VA is taking that route themselves using acupuncture and other ways that are non-prescription to help veterans. Received 10% for shoulder impingement. Was later diagnosed by a civilian doctor with scoliosis. Can I or should I file a Nexus secondary? It sounds like you just need to put in for increase. if you are rated for shoulder pain, it should be 20% anyway, not 10%. The least you can get for pain in the shoulder is 20%. So I would definitely encourage you to put in for an increase. Veteran has 100% TDIU and needs ANA but has been turned down. 60% high blood pressure, pain 20% ankle. Appeal. Definitely appeal. How long does it take them to do a remand? And it's been since April 2009. Remands take time. There's no specific time frame. They take longer than normal claims for some reason. They have no rhyme or rhythm to them. I have several sitting in my queue that I've even emailed the VA about, and it's still not much movement. If I could find a rhyme or rhythm to them, I would definitely share the secret and tell you guys, but I can't. And all you can do is stand by and wait it out. I got denied IBS due to no Nexus. When I started my claim, it said not to add military records because they already had them. My military work showed lab work, stool samples, etc. Also, when I filed, I included current diagnosis along with my medical record showing continuing problems along with pictures of polyps and colonoscopy. The VA said they received all of my uploaded information, but the examiner said I had no diagnosis. No records and no complaints. I could test and uploaded everything, and I can't see the rest of that question, but I would definitely ask for a high-level review. If they said you had no diagnosis or records and you do, that's an error, a duty to assist error. There was something that examiner could not see. Can you claim bruxism if it's in your service records? The only way that the VA allows you to claim bruxism is secondary, so it had to be secondary to some other condition. Oh. Was denied with this Nexus letter for DDD for my back secondary to knee disability. Would you know what else to do or why? They probably sent you to an examiner who said that it wasn't service connected after your Nexus letter. I would need to see the language of your Nexus letter to make sure it used the right language for the VA and that type of thing. But the letter that you received in the rating decision should have told you exactly why your claim was denied. So I might ask for a higher level review to just get some other eyes on it, get somebody else to look at it and say, hey, I had a Nexus letter. I should have been given the benefit of the doubt, but I can't tell you without looking at your specific file exactly what you should do. I put in sleep apnea secondary claim with my anxiety and insomnia. So VA came back and said they made a mistake to give me compensation for anxiety and insomnia. They said it's not service connected. What should I do? You need to get a representative as soon as possible. They have to give you due process before they service connection, and you need to prove that you did have it. And you've been getting treatment for it and that type of thing. When did they do your first review after being awarded VA? Within 3 to 5 years. Who is Fred Nelson and how do we get in contact with him? I believe you're talking about Dr. Fred Nolan. He's a psychologist who is in the group. He does Nexus letters for mental health conditions and examinations. And I believe his email address, I could be wrong. He also has a Facebook page, so look up search Facebook for Frederick Nolan, and it should come up. But I believe it's Fred Nolan at msn.com. What is the highest percent for migraines will the VA award? 50%. 50% is the highest. How long does it take to do a remand to the RO? Like I said, with remand, there's no rhyme or rhythm. It can take a really long time. What is a Nexus letter? A Nexus letter is a letter from a doctor that says whether your condition is service connected or not. Okay, Alexa is wanting to talk. I must have said something similar to Alexa. Stop. Oh, I guess Nexus sounded like that. But it's a letter from your doctor and whether something is service connected or not. So it can really help your claim if you have a doctor say that your sleep apnea is secondary to your PTSD, or that your knee condition is directly related to your service. I got denied for my shoulder on my disability, saying it wasn't service related. When I have all the documents showing I went to a doctor a million times for it. How do I get it fixed and added, especially now that I found out when I got out I had a tear in it and had surgery? Resubmit on a supplemental claim and add the new evidence. That's the way to begin getting that service connected. To file IU, what's the best way to do it? Simply put in the claim for it, having a letter from your employer, a statement from yourself or any co-workers, family members, buddies, anything you can get to support your IU claim. Nexus letter from a vocational evaluator would help. A Nexus letter from a doctor saying that you can't work, or a statement from a doctor saying that you can't work. That's the best way to go about it. There's also a whole group on Facebook called Individual Unemployability. That's all they deal with. It's a great group by the Veterans Claim Assistance Group, and I would encourage you to join that group. In 2015, I got out of the Marines, rated at 10%. I joined the Army and then became medically retired. The issue claimed upon me and medically retired were claimed when I got out of the Marines, and I'm able to be retrograde. In most cases, the answer is no. I can't tell you for sure without reviewing your specific file, but while you were back in, you shouldn't have been getting paid at the 10%. And so the answer is you should only be retrograde to the date that you got out of the Army. I've been waiting 2.5 years for my appeal, and they say it's in the final review. I did have a exam for a gastritis, but don't know the results yet, which was 30 days ago. Yes, this will be uploaded in its entirety following the end of the conclusion of the video. Oh, there's a lot of questions left. At what point in the MB process can or should I file for any of the following if applicable? I would have to get back to you on that question. I'm not an expert on the MB process, unfortunately, so I can't tell you much about it, but I'm sure our other admins can chime in there and help you out. Somebody please try to help them on this question. When should he file for SSDI, CRSC, SSI, etc.? Are disabled veterans able to have access to? They are supposed to have access to commissary and things like that. From what I've been reading, I can't tell you whether it actually happened on today. We'd have to get some feedback from members. I have military ID already, so I can go on base, so I wouldn't be able to tell you. Hello, I filed unemployability and the VA sent me to the LHA doctor for my evaluation. They did the DBQ. Will the unemployability show on e-benefits? I will receive a letter in the mail. You will receive a letter in the mail. It might show on e-benefits before you get the letter, but the best bet is to wait on the letter in the mail. I have a claim I started in September 2009. I have an appointment with LHI next week, but the limping has caused knee issues. Can I add it in, or do I have to submit another claim? You will have to submit another claim to get If you didn't claim your knee issues at first, you submit another claim to get it rated. But you don't have to wait till your claim is submitted. You can submit it tonight. You just probably won't have an exam for it next week, and it will probably be done in another claim. Yes, once this is over, you'll be able to listen to all the answers. I want to say thank you and may God richly bless you and your family. Thank you so much. That's sweet. I had things they said never not service connected, but I never had a CMP exam. If this was within the last year, then I would ask for a higher level review and ask why you didn't have an exam. Per the duty to exist, you should have been given an exam, or you might want to try filing a supplemental claim with new and relevant evidence to get an exam. Hello, I applied 10 years ago for PTSD anxiety. I have a Nexus letter from my doctor that was written just 6 months ago, and I was on SSDI, and have a written letter from my doctor before I got the military that said he never referred or treated me for any of these symptoms. Will I get a rate? And they have denied me for 10 years now. I'm in my second and a half year wait on appeal. Do you think I have a good shot? If you got a Nexus letter and you have that evidence with SSDI, yes, I think you have a good shot. But all, of course, depends on the adjudicator who's looking at it and what they evidence. Without reviewing your whole record, I can't tell you for sure whether it would be service connected or not. Even if I could review your whole record, I can't tell you for sure because I'm not the adjudicator that makes a decision. If I was given hearing aids by the VA, can they deny for hearing loss because it's corrected by the hearing aids? Hearing loss exams are supposed to be done without your hearing aids at the VA. So no, they wouldn't deny it just because you have hearing aids. If your claim is with the appeals, can you submit a DBQ and Nexus letter? Yes, if it's under the legacy system. If it's under the new system, which was imposed in February 2019, called AMA, Appeals Modernization Act, then it just depends on whether or not, it depends on what route you chose. If you chose the board route without adding new evidence, then no, they will not consider the DBQ and Nexus letter. So this question is all about what route you chose and if you're under the legacy system or you're under the new appeal system. I have 8 claims that will go before a judge in May. They have denied me for even while in my medical records. Will going before a judge help my situation? It should help your situation. A lot of times when you go before a judge and you personalize the situation, it helps the judge understand and see when the situation started, and plus your testimony is used as evidence. Rated 80% was denied sleep apnea as not service connected. Seeing a psych now for insomnia due to lumbar pain, which is service connected. What is the chance of having sleep apnea secondary, or better off filing for insomnia secondary to lumbar pain? I wouldn't encourage you to file both of them. Secondary to lumbar pain. Insomnia is rated as a mental health condition with the VA. Sleep apnea is rated as a physical condition, so they're not the same thing. If you're denied sleep apnea is not service connected, then you need to submit new and relevant evidence and file a supplemental claim, ask for a higher level review, appeal something. Don't let your claim die if you really believe it's service connected. You are a VA claims agent. What do you mean when you say you to write the VA? Who reviews the claims after you? Are they medical professionals? Write the VA means you're writing. Usually it's like a call center agent, a frontline person, and that person interprets it and passes it on to somebody else who's an adjudicator. I'm gonna make sure I'm interpreting your question right. You are a VA claims agent. What do you mean when you say you have to the VA? Who reviews the claims after you? Are they medical professionals? When I'm talking about writing a statement, you send that statement to the VA, it gets reviewed by an adjudicator, and then they send it to a medical professional. They send it to a medical professional to get a medical opinion. So most communications with the VA are first reviewed by regular lay people who are hired by the VA and trained in VA rules and regulations, and then they send it off to the doctor, and you get an exam, and the doctor reviews that statement. So when you're writing the VA, you're writing to a wide audience, and that's why it's important for you to make it as basic as possible and connect the dots for the person reading the whatever community you're writing. I hope that answered that question. A migraine log is not required. I was rated at 30% for my back, yet I was sent out to a neurosurgeon because there were problems found above back surgery I had in 2018. They want to do surgery again. I don't want to. Can my rating increase? I'm at 80% now. Yes, your rating has room to increase. I don't know that your back will get you to 100%. You can certainly try, but if there are secondary conditions like hip pain or neck pain caused by your back, you might want to file for that too. But it's all dependent on the examiner you see and how bad they say your back is. The medical records will help. If you've gotten consistent treatment and back surgery and all that, that should help. I was employed in 2008, National Guard status. I filed sleep apnea and was denied. How can I fight that? I did not have sleep apnea before I left. My mission was convoy security. Write a statement, file an appeal. I don't know how long it's been since you were denied. You might have to file a supplemental with new evidence, but definitely get treatment for it. Create medical records for it. Not create records, but if you go to the doctor, medical records are going to be created. But definitely seek treatment for the condition. Use those treatment records to fight back. How can you increase on a service-connected disability claim if you don't have new evidence? Is it possible without new evidence? Yes, you can get an increase if you're already service-connected and you're looking for an increase. You don't need new evidence. New evidence is for a claim that's not service-connected. They are going to send you to a doctor to evaluate the severity of your service-connected disability claim, even if you don't have new evidence. And that new doctor is going to say how severe it is. Yes, treatment records will help, but it's not the end-all, be-all. So you can get an increase without having new evidence. They owe me for the 65 days I was there. I'm not sure I understand this question. Maybe it's with another question. I don't see. But I will try to get back to you after this video. Where do I begin my VA claim? You begin with reviewing your service treatment records, your treatment records now, and seeing what diagnosis you have and claiming those things. You can use a paper application in 21 526 EZ, or you can submit on eBenefits or va.gov to start your VA claim. At their website, one can request a copy of records for VA vet center visits. There's not necessarily a website. You have to go to the vet center and fill out a records release and get those records to get your vet center visits. They don't regularly share those with the VA. Vet center records are private. VA just granted my appeal on adjustment disorder and chronic PTSD because I was racially assaulted by senior drill instructor when I was in basic because I was black, was told I was gay. No, I'm not. DRO just granted my appeal. How long does it take for back pay benefits to update? Thank you all for your service. It can take, this sounds like a remand, and just like all the other questions of remands I've answered, it can take a while for the back pay to hit and you actually get a rating decision letter with the rating for it. So they might have to send you to a CMP exam to see how much you're rated. I don't know based on what you told me, but if they grant the appeal, that's a good thing. Congratulations. I'm sorry you had to go through that. But it can take a while for it all to become effective. I have 4 CMP exams. How long does a rating take? On normal supplemental claims, I'm seeing an average of 3 to 5 months right now. What is the highest rating for chronic PTSD? 100%. Does a VA give disability rating for infertility? This is an interesting question, and it depends on whether there was some condition in service that caused the infertility. I'll get back to this after this video. Okay, guys, I've been on for an hour and a half now. I see I have a lot of questions left, and I'm not going to be able to get to them all. I tried really hard, but thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for your service. Happy New Year, and I pray nothing but blessings and success in your claims in the coming year. Take care.